Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever and wherever you are. My name is Anna Rochelle, and today we are going to solve equations by factoring them. And we're kind of going to go based off of a worksheet that a student sent in. And we are going to not go in order of all the problems because I'm a little bit wild today. Okay, so we're going to start with the ones that are a little bit simpler and then work our way up. So this also includes factoring, plain Jane factoring with trinomials. It includes factoring using the GCF and then factoring using square roots. Okay, so we're going to start with factoring using square roots. So on this worksheet, this is problem 20. We're going to take a look at this. Oh gosh, see, I don't like variables that are not X. Oh, this is going to be a problem for me. It's fine. That's fine. I can figure it out. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to look at these two and we're going to say like, hey, we know that each of these two terms actually has a common variable, and variable is n. So we're going to pull out the letter n from each of these two terms. And then in my mind, so I'm not doing this like, I'm not writing all of this out. What I am doing is in my mind, I'm thinking to myself, okay, what is n squared divided by n? So we should remember from exponent rules, this has a 2 and this has a 1. So we're just going to subtract 2 from 2 minus 1, okay? So then once I subtract, this n here is going to go here, okay? So just to like make sure we're all on the same page, this n is this n, okay? This n is the n that's the GCF, okay? So that is my GCF. Then I'm going to take, again, also in my head, 8n divided by my GCF, n to the first, right? So actually, I don't even need that n to the first down here because I erased a little bit too much. Because these are both n's. And so I know when I have the same thing on the top and on the bottom, I can just cancel it out, right? So then I'm just going to have 8. So this 8 is going to go up top here, okay? And so I have now fully factored this equation, okay? But they're not saying just factor it, they're saying solve it. So normally when you have an equal sign, you're going to need to solve a problem. You're going to say n equals something or x equals something or whatever variable equals something. So in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to take n and set it equal to 0. And we're going to take n plus 8 and also set it to 0. So what I'm doing is I'm taking my first parentheses and setting it to 0. I'm setting both parentheses equal to 0. Okay. So this one's kind of basic to solve, right? Because it's already solved for us. So it's kind of nice. This one isn't. So what we're going to do is we're just going to subtract 8 from both sides so we can get the n on its own, right? And we're going to get n equals -8. Ta-da! 2 solutions. And we're going to have 2 solutions because n is to the second power, okay? So that means we're going to have 2 solutions. If n was to the 4th power, we would have 4 solutions. You don't have to deal with that just yet because that's an algebra 2 standard, I think. So if you're still in algebra 1, which this is, definitely you're totally fine. Okay. So the next problem that we're going to work with is going to be problem 17. I love problems like problem 17. I don't know why that didn't write. So problem 17 is super fun because I want to get r by itself, okay? In order for me to do that, normally when I have like, let's say I had like x minus 25, right? To the 0 equals 0. All I need to do to get x by itself is just add 25, right? On both sides, because, you know, whatever I do to one, I'd have to do to the other, and so whatnot. So these guys would cancel, and then I would be left with x equals 25, right? So then this would be done. If you're thinking like, where did she get the x from? Where is this coming from? it's just a more basic example that I want you to see, like, hey, this is the basic example. So now we're just like working out a little bit. We're beefing up in the gym, right? So here, this r to the second power is going to be the same exact thing. So we're going to start off and we're going to add 25 to both sides, okay? So far, we haven't done anything different, okay? But here we have r to the second power equals 25. So I can't have r to the second power. R to the second power means I have r times r. So I'm taking one number and I'm multiplying it by itself to get 25. So what I want to do is I actually want to take the square root of both of them, okay? So in this case, when I take the square root of something squared, it's just like they kind of cancel, you know? And then the square root of 25 can be both positive and negative 5, okay? Because we know positive 5 times positive 5 is 25, negative 5 times negative 5 is also 25, okay? So now we're going to take a look at problem 19. And problem 19 is one of like the plain Jane factoring problems. But it's taking it a little step further because it's asking you to solve the equation, not just factor it, okay? So up until now, you've either been doing a box or you've been opening up 2 sets of parentheses. I like opening up 2 sets of parentheses because I feel like when I was in Algebra 1, my math teacher was like, do the parentheses, blah, and I did like 5 million problems like that. And so like, that's just ingrained in second nature. But if you like the box, you're not going to get a different answer. It's going to be the same answer, okay? Hopefully, assuming that you do your like actual math correctly. So don't quote me on that. Okay, so I'm going to open up 2 sets of parentheses just because that's what I like. I'm going to take the 2 factors of x squared are just going to be x and x, right? And then I'm going to take the factors of 10. And so my factors of 10, like 2 numbers that multiply to get to 10, are 1 and 10 and 2 and 5. I could also do -1 and -10 and -2 and -5. So if I take a look, my goal is for my 2 factors to add up to this -7, okay? This will not add up to -7, whether I add or subtract these, right? This will also not add up to -7. It'll add up to +7, but not -7. This is also no good. So this is the only other option. So I know -2 times -5 is +10. And also -2 plus -5 is going to be -7. So I'm going to put those 2 factors in my parentheses and set it equal to 0. Dude, just like we did this, where we took each of our parentheses and set it equal to 0 to find what n equaled, guess what? We're going to do the same exact thing. We're going to do x minus 2 equals 0 and x minus 5 equals 0. Now, this is going to be a really important concept later on when you start graphing these factored equations, okay? So we want to remember that we're going to add 2 to both sides in here, and x is going to be +2. So if you take a look, a lot of times when we solve, whatever is in the parentheses is not going to be our answer. So like whatever my factors are here, this -2 and -5 is my factor. That's not going to be what x equals, right? Like in here, I know right away, if this is -5, my answer is going to be +5. And that's just because I'm going to add 5 to both sides, right? And then this will cancel. So if it doesn't quite make sense yet, it will make sense when you start graphing things and when you come back to this and you'll be like, oh, that's what she meant, okay? All right, so we took care of like the more basic ones. Let's take care of something that's a little bit more challenging, okay? So you're still factoring, you're still doing the same thing, okay? Let's take a look at problem number 15. These V's and R's and oh my goodness gracious. I feel like I'm such a complainer now. I've been blessed with just X variables for a while. And so here I am. Okay, so let's take a look at this. Again, open up two sets of parentheses, girl. You can also do this without two sets of parentheses, and it's just the same, okay? So when I open up my two sets of parentheses, I always want to take my first term, right? So like this is always going to be this times this, right? So when I take a look, 5v squared, I'm going to have 5v times v, maybe, right? Because like all my factors for 5 are just 1 and 5. So if I do 5v times v, I will get 5v squared. There's no other set of factors for 5. So this is it. Like this is where it's at. But then when you take a look at this -4, I should probably do a different color because these are super close. Okay, this is a little bit better. So when I take a look at that, and when I'm looking for factors of -4, I could say that I have -1 times 4 or -4 times 1, right? Or -2 times 2, or that's it. Because if I do the other one is negative, then it's just the same thing, right? So then I don't want to look for anything that adds up to +1 right here. And I'm going to tell you why. So we're going to take a little field trip to problem the last and take a look at this. So I'm going to rewrite this whole thing right here. So if I have x minus 2 and x minus 5, one of the ways to check if this is actually correct is to go ahead and FOIL it out. So multiply it out, use the box, see what happens. And for those of you who are like, oh my gosh, I have no idea what the box is, what's happening, right? It's totally fine. All you do is make a box. Step 1, we're talking about more area model, right? So I'm gonna have x minus 2 on top, x minus 5 on bottom, and then I'm going to multiply x times x is x squared, -2x, -5x, and +10. Yeah. So then take a look. Over here, I have these two guys that are going to be added together and get -7x. So I know for a fact that this is going to equal this whole box, right? Everything when I FOIL it out is gonna equals minus, right? And this is exactly what I wanted because this is exactly my original problem, right? So now when I go in here, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna do the same exact thing. I'm going to kind of like guess and check. I know, and I'm like such a hater of guess and check. I'm like epic hater, like total hateration club, president of that club. I don't like that guess and check. I'm going to tell you right now, after you've done like hundreds and thousands of problems like I have, you're going to look at it and you're going to be like, oh my gosh, there's definitely a pattern. I can totally see it. But then I'm going to deprive you of finding that pattern and internalizing it. So I'm not going to tell you that pattern, okay? But you will do lots of problems and you will figure it out, okay? So when I choose, let's say, -1 and +4, I'm going to multiply the two inner pieces and the two outer pieces. So like when I'm looking at my box, I'm just looking at these two pieces, that those are the only two that are really important for me, because I know x times x is going to be x squared. And I know that -5 and -2 are going to be +10. So I know that those are going to be correct, but I don't know whether they're going to give me this. So let's take a look. -1 times v is -1v, and 5 times 4 is 20v. No way is that going to give me 1v. So this is a no-go. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually, sorry, not this is a no-go. Woo, I got really excited. Okay. So then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do 5v and v. But instead of putting 4 here and 1 here, I'm going to flip-flop them. So I'm going to do +4 and -1. So then I'm going to have negative 4v, and I'm going to check it again, and I'm going to see like, hey, does this make sense? And then this, oh, whoops, that's positive 4v, and this is negative 5. Oh, that doesn't work because that's negative 1v, right? So then I can be like, hey, I want a positive 1v, but I know that this gives me this gives me 1. So what if instead of having positive 4 and negative 1, what if I flip around the signs? Okay. So let's take a look. Again, total hater of guess and check. But this is kind of like where it's at. Okay. So I know I'm going to have negative 4 times v is negative 4v, right? And then 5v and 1 is going to be positive 5. Hey, look at that. That's going to add up to give me positive 1v, which is exactly what I'm looking for up here. Okay. So then I know that this is my fully factored piece. Okay. So I want you to stop and I want you to think about this. Are you done? The answer should be no, because the instructions said solve each equation by factoring. It didn't say just factor, it said solve each equation by factoring, okay? So what you're gonna do is now you're gonna take it to step 2, right? Step 1 is factor it. Step 2 is actually set each set of parentheses equal to 0. Okay, so I'm gonna have 5v minus 4 equals 0, and v plus 1 also equals 0. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to subtract 1 from both sides. V equals negative 1. That's one of my answers. Here, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add 4 to both sides. 5v equals 4. And then you're going to divide by 5, right? Because this is multiplication. So we divide. So we end up with v equals 4/5. Boom, done. Okay, so using that, I want you to go ahead and I want you to pause this video, try problem 16. I'm actually gonna let's do this. I'm gonna write it out first. Try the problem on your own, use that guess and check method, right? And then go in and say, this is the correct answer, this is the incorrect answer. Okay, pause this video. Okay, so you should have stopped the video. If you did not, ta-da, here's the answer. So I've factored the problem and I've set both sets of parentheses equal to 0, and then I've solved both sets of parentheses for x. So those two are both the correct answers. I'm going to give you problem 18. And I'm going to have you try the same exact way, same exact method. I know I've only kind of given you one method, and that's usually not my case, but realistically speaking, it's not a 27-minute video, I hope. Okay, pause the video. Okay, so if you haven't paused the video, ta-da, here's the answer to number 18. Again, it's a matter of guessing and checking. It's also a matter of doing like lots of problems like this to get better, but also to like find the pattern of what, how can you do this? Now, granted, I've been doing this for a really long time and I've been doing these problems for a really long time. So I've seen the pattern and I know the pattern, and I don't have to list all the factors of everything. I just kind of like look at it and see it, right? But you should absolutely, like if any of these answers are incorrect, you should absolutely be going back to this, listing all of the factors, putting it into the box, making sure that these two terms that are like terms add up to this middle term here, okay? I hope that this was helpful. I hope it was not long because I'm recording and I was not paying attention to the time, but good luck. I will see you next time. Bye.